Thank you very much. And it's great to see so many people here. And I think that the conversations have been so wonderful and great so far on all dimensions of cybersecurity. Really good. I'm Lida Rragami. I'm head of cybersecurity for Sonnedix. Sonnedix is a renewable energy company that operates internationally in 10 countries. Now, this is meant to work, isn't it? Well, just quick introduction. And why have I chosen threat management to talk about today specifically? And what can I bring to this conversation? So, as of till end of February, I worked for British Telecom for almost quarter of a century. And I was heading cybersecurity engineering in BT, protecting over 30 million customers, huge estate, operating on 180 countries, including emergency service network protection, 999, as you know, what BT does in terms of critical national infrastructure. So with that experience, I was exposed to everything to do with telecom, with your broadbands, with businesses, with banks, and how we operate and how we protect. At Sonnedix, it's a renewable energy. I've been there for 2 weeks, but I feel like I've been there forever. But it starts to bring a completely different dimension because we're talking about renewable energy. We're talking about regulations and how we operate completely differently. We're talking about SCADA. Could be environments that have probably been created about 10, 15 years ago and operating in that way. And then that operational technology, how on earth do you cyber secure it, especially if you start to move through digitalization, that you start to bring data more to the central, you're on cloud or on public cloud, how do you protect it? I have only 2 slides today, that's why I'm taking my time here, because I want to spare time and really have a conversation, a two-way conversation. I will position very quickly the cyber threat landscape and how prepared we are to really mitigate those cyber threats, and then some key recommendations that have come from my personal experience working at BT, but being exposed also to the wider cyber threat landscape. It's very busy, and I have done it this way on purpose because that paints the picture of every company and the nightmare we are faced with when it comes to the cyber protection. And you know, this is a simplified picture. So before you go to those yellow clouds, think about if you are a large company, you will have a large DDoS platform. You will have big estate of firewalls that protect your data center. You will have major estate, now talking to Sarah, that you will have your own end-user devices with Microsoft Cloud and on-prem and whatever you're doing. And every company, it doesn't matter if it's small or big, you will have, in average, around 30, but the number is more around 47 different cyber platforms that we are operating in a company. That in itself is a nightmare. Now, if I just on the top, on your side is going to be left-hand corner, we currently have state actors really pushing hard on the cyber threat. With APT's advanced, persistent threats, that means they have been on your network, they are lurking around, they are persistent because now they probably have control, and then they go into attack when they see it fit. Not only that, but when we talk about the AI and artificial intelligence, they have the liberty of really sophisticating those cyber attacks. Not only you have the state actors, but now you have what was before called as a community of hackers starting to become very professional, because with ransomware, you start to generate a lot of profit. So you have the state actors and the common community of hackers really starting to come together. And actually, data starts to flow in the dark web of what has been stolen on your network and then is gone as a bid out there who can bid for. So with all the complexity that we have on our cyber estate, with very advanced cyber threats, how are you going to manage it? So some of the risks here, you have data coming from your DDoS estate, from proxies, from AV, from antivirus protection and detection and response firewalls. How are you correlating that data? Because there is no question about integration here. There is some integration, and if someone says, everything that I've been building over 20 years in cyber protection, I've correlated everything, I doubt that. Because it's impossible. You can have a view of what each of those platforms is generating, but you are going to struggle to have a proper platform that's correlating everything. Okay? You can do automation, you can have proper SIEM, you can have data lakes. Are you collecting everything from everywhere? And especially if you're a company that operates in 200 countries, have 150,000 employees, have a huge database of corporate customers and broadband and residential, 30 million mobile customers, and you have so many tools. You can tell me that you can correlate it all? That's not the case. So you have a lot of air gaps, you have a lot of blind spots, absolutely a nightmare to correlate everything. You also have too much noise. It's alert fatigue. Just how much are you going to tune your SIEM data and collecting it and create the user cases? So it is that alert fatigue. You also have a lot of lack of skills. Cybersecurity today in the world has a major millions of lack of skills of untrained people. And with that forever moving threat landscape, it's really impossible to keep up. It's just barely keeping your head above the water. So without laboring the point, so there's a lot of that, let's just move into the next one. So this is more from my personal view of working many years in cybersecurity and really trying to be pragmatic. You wouldn't find this in a book, but I'm bringing my own experience, and hopefully if we have enough time, we can have questions and answers, and like to hear your view as well, because others in the audience would like that as well. First point, how to manage that complexity. Try the best you can to understand the gaps you have on your estate. And what do I mean by gaps? In threat management acts on data. Where is your data going? How are you collecting it? How timely you acting on it? And I will take a leaf of the Sensom presentation earlier. What's your mean time to recognize and start to really identify the issue and start to fix it? And if you do not have all the data, that's an issue. So that's your first thing. Start acting on it. Also, have a workforce. I know it's very scarce. Start to think like a hacker. Really get your workforce to start to engage in ethical hacking if you can. That's how I've encouraged my units and my team always. Really become part of that community of the ethical hackers and start to understand, because they're doing good things, they're not doing bad things, okay? But that's kind of a training, but start to think like a hacker. For the small companies, so you go through these recommendations, for the small companies, they have an easier way out because they're putting everything on the cloud could be public cloud, even if they're building smaller data center, especially for the renewable energy. If you're starting now, this is the time to think about your data design. How do you design your data? How do you collect it? Where do you send it? How you act on them? It's a very key point. That will define, you talk about AI. AI means nothing if you do not have the right data. Machine learning goes dribble if you don't have the right data. That's very, very important. I've put the fourth point there, the operating model. Cyber is a really good tag to have with you if you are in a big corporate and you have big managing directors that think, cyber, if I have a tag of cyber, I'll get some money. And if I have the tag of cyber, probably I'll compete with the other director, and maybe I'll build the cyber here as well. Now, it is something that it depends with what level you have in the company that you can influence or not. The biggest threat we have is when you start to chop cyber within the company, a bit here, a bit there, and a bit there, because it's good to have some security tag on. If you have influence, start to bring cyber community in the company in one place. Because the collaboration, synergy of skills, and really we're talking about design from day zero. Start secure by design from the beginning. Having that community together, it will make a difference. If you have it dispersed, you already created a problem. There is a point here I've made about the operations. So today the big companies will have a NOC, Network Operations Center, and will have a SOC, Secure Operations Center, and they are separate. Actually, it's a big challenge if you have them separate. If you have them in one place, that mean time to respond, those KPIs are going to be much more effective and much more quickly to react to. My recommendation, start to think how you can integrate. We talk about AI and machine learning. It is a blessing. It is here to stay. It's a disruptor. But it is a curse if you think you can put it in your network pretty quickly if you have the complexities of the previous slide. Because what AI can do in that space is can actually, in the beginning, give you some lovely, nice false positives. Oh, then you start ignoring them. Oh, that's a false positive, yeah, it doesn't matter. You get about 3 or 4 false positives and start to relax and kind of go to sleep. And then you get a false negative and you ignore it. And that's a big bang. So AI and machine learning, absolutely pivotal, very important. You need to use it. Careful how you use it. I wouldn't start with AI bringing into a complex network. I'd start with automations. Automations and how you can bring the data, integrate data together. It's still AI. But not take a big bang AI and say, I'm going to put AI, it's going to reduce my resources, increase efficiency, big bang. Because that's going to really hurt you. The final point here is something that I have been driving for quite a few years with vendors. As I said, the complexity of different platforms, it's on the left-hand side of the slide. And everyone will come and sell me DDoS, will send me XDR, will send me AV and EDR. The challenge is, as a vendor, if you're operating on that space, start to think of providing integrated capabilities for the companies. Cyber integrated capabilities, where with one sensor or with one agent that I can deploy on my estate, it's going to give me those capabilities, not managing 40, 50 cyber platforms. And it has to be a concerted effort from everyone working with vendors to drive that message. And that's where I leave you.